with college football, since it happened earlier after our podcast last week. This talk, remember what the SEC did in poaching Texas and Oklahoma. I should say Oklahoma and Texas. Oklahoma has been more successful than Texas, but that's not here nor there. But the point is, they've actually formally invited Oklahoma and Texas to join the Southeastern Conference, into which both schools have accepted it, unanimously accepted. So now we all know that the SEC is going to be going from 14 to 16. It's a matter, is it going to happen in 2025 when the current grant of rights expires in the Big 12, or more than likely it's going to happen before that? Because that's going to be an awkward 4 more years.
Yes.
To be in a conference where you don't want to be, and the current conference inhabitants in the Big 12 do not want your ass anymore. So I'm guessing this is going to be the last year that they're going to be in the Big 12, because both Oklahoma and Texas, especially Texas, have deep pockets enough to pay back that money due to the grant of rights, the grant of rights penalty of opting out early. And I'm guessing that the SEC and their lawyers will book a plan that helps Oklahoma and Texas eventually get paid when they officially push the escape button, the eject button, if you will, from the Big 12. So the point, the last 2 weeks were, what are the other conferences going to do? The Big 12 already met with the Pac-12 first. But then last week, the Big 10 and the ACC met up with the Pac-12 to talk about an alliance. So 2 things. Not only is that going to practically kill the Big 12 at this point as a Power 5 conference, but this is a united show of strength against the SEC aggression. It is, dude, it's crazy. But before we get into specifics, give me your thoughts on this, because it's like you knew something was going to happen. You figured it was going to be a poaching of other schools from the Big 12 or whatever. But these guys, the Power 5, the reigning Power, well, other be Power 4, coming together, the ACC, the Big 10, and the Pac-12, 3 different conferences, 3 different parts of the country. That's huge. And I'm going to go into why that's huge, but give me your thoughts on what you're saying with this, because this is crazy.
Yeah, you hear often, get ready or stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Right, yes.
And I've been one who is probably looking at this whole SEC move probably a lot less underwhelming as everyone else. I mean, yes, you're adding in a huge brand like Texas. You're adding in a huge brand like you're adding in 2 huge brands, Texas and Oklahoma.
Right.
Now, this is basically a football move. Let's be real.
Yeah.
And if we're looking at it as such, the only real gem here, let's be real, is Oklahoma.
Right.
The hope is that Texas gets better.
And that's the brand. Texas is the brand. Texas is the brand.
Texas is the brand.
Right, yes.
But Oklahoma is the talent right now.
Right, yes. And the brand too.
Yeah, and the hope is that you can get the talent level back up to the brand, the brand level that is Texas.
Right.
The thing is, though, that's going to be extremely hard in the SEC when you already got brands and talent of Oklahoma, of Alabama,
NFL light.
LSU.
It's the NFL light. Right? That's what it is right now.
The other, the 4 or 5 other teams which will make the NFL 36, 37 teams right now, right? Right. And Georgia, Auburn, LSU, Alabama. You already got them, right? And you bring it in Oklahoma. You already got a team in that conference in Tennessee that's looking to regain its old prominence already. I still believe Texas needs to take a page out of, or look at that page of Nebraska, what's going on in the Big 12 as a precursor of what could happen to them. But with all this talking, I understand how everyone believes that this is going to make that the SEC that much stronger. I still say, how strong will it really be once you start getting into November, December, January, February? You start talking about basketball. That's another conversation for another day, right?
Yes, it is.
So
totally, yeah.
But I digress, right? So, with all of this fear of what could potentially happen, Everyone is expecting the other Power 5 conferences to do something, and that's exactly what it seems like it's going on. There was conversation of everyone expanding. Now there's conversation of conferences linking up and doing things together. There's, of course, the potential talk of merging conferences to create this
Big
mega
12 and
conference.
Pac-12.
Yeah, to create this mega conference or mega conferences to compete against the SEC. And my thought on that is, whoa, Nelly, to take a page out of Keith Jackson, since we talk about college football. You know, just slow down a little bit. Slow down Kemosabe. You know, big balling is my hobby. I say wait and see exactly what happens if the SEC actually succeeds or if it doesn't become as big as everyone believes it's going to be. But at the same time, to kind of double talk that, yeah, be prepared for what might happen, right? Because if it does become big, you're going to have to do well, you know what? Do they really have to do anything to compete? Because what would be the benefits of merging these conferences to technically compete against the SEC? I have to ask that because it seems like no one's really asking that question. Everyone's like,
what's the cost benefit analysis, right? What's the cost benefit analysis of that shit? Yeah.
Of course. What's the purpose of doing this? Because what does that necessarily benefit? These schools within these conferences already are brands within their own right, especially within their respective regions. It's not going to say that, oh, now that Oklahoma and Texas are in the SEC, someone from Michigan is going to watch. No, they're going to continue to watch Michigan and Michigan State.
Correct.
Same thing can be said about those that live in Florida. No, they're still going to watch Florida State if they weren't, especially, and they're going to still watch Florida State in Miami.
Yeah.
Especially with UF being in the SEC. They're not going to switch allegiances just because the SEC got bigger. Yes, people will keep eyes on it because, yes, traditional college football.
People in the Midwest, to your point, in the state of Ohio, it's not going to all of a sudden switch and watch Alabama play Mississippi State. They're going to still watch Ohio State play Purdue, Ohio State play Indiana, Ohio State play Michigan in the big game, and so on and so forth. Ohio State, Penn State. We get the point, right? So,
of course,
I totally agree with you.
If anything, they'll just be poaching the Texas and the Oklahoma fans that were in the Big 12 to come over there. That's about it, really.
Right.
Other than that, okay, what does it benefit them? It benefits them financially, but again, it's still their fan base in that region. You're not necessarily grabbing more eyes to your conference. They're still going to have the same eyes coming there outside of that region.
Sure.
Two, by coming together, does that really necessarily benefit you? I mean, I understand ways in which it can benefit by those conferences competing with the SEC to get additional playoff spots. And yeah, it can. But you know what? Do I necessarily have to? Well, I don't have to merge in order to do that.
Right.
We can just have an agreement. We've talked about this before on the show.
Yes.
Where
that's the easiest way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're already doing in college basketball with the Big 12, with a Big 10 ACC challenge. You can do the same thing in college football where you end up having this round robin challenge every year. Matter of fact, it's the same thing basically that HBCUs have been doing for years, where they were primarily at one point in time classics when you had someone from the MEAC and the SWAC face one another, or maybe the SWAC and the SEAC for regional purposes. And the same thing with the MEAC and the CIAA.
Yes.
The same thing can be
done. We saw it happen for years.
Yeah, and it happened for years. The same thing could be done on the Power 5 level. I always say this, and I'll continue to say this. The blueprint exists somewhere, right? For success in anything. It's about understanding what your plan is, finding that said blueprint, and making it work for you. And that's exactly what these conferences could do. I don't think necessarily a merger is necessary, but taking that same idea that they use in college basketball and bringing it to college football would be wonderful. And you know what that also would do? It would boost up your OOC or your strength of schedule rating when you're looking to get at large bids within your conference. The only conference, though, that I still believe it would be a detriment to is that Pac-12 and probably the Big 10 too. Because what happens with them? A lot of times they struggle outside of their conference.
Correct.
And then you add in the fact that they like to beat themselves up in their conference too.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens?
Especially Pac-12. The Pac-12 is notorious for cannibalizing itself like that.
Oh my God!
That's what kept them out of the college football playoff for the last few years.
Exactly, right? And it's always been a funny situation where someone in the Pac-12 takes an early lead and they always stumble against some trash team like Oregon State or you know what? And let me not name another school because if I keep going on this path, we're going to have Pac-12 people hating us too. So, but that
let me, Kate, but go ahead.
but yeah, that's what happens with the Pac-12, and in essence is what's kind of happened in the Big 12 as well, where you have your conference winner, but that number 2, number 3 team always ends up stumbling against another team, giving them their second loss within the conference too. So it can be a benefit, but it can also be a detriment. So what say you? What are the benefits of said agreement and or merger in this type of situation?
I agree with you. We're sharing a brain on this, brother. And I swear to the listeners out there, viewers out there, we did not talk about this beforehand. We're kind of our own opinion. So I agree. To me, if someone's going to be eating up another conference, it'll be far easier if the Pac-12 did it to the Big 12. Because, because if you're the Pac-12, you're looking to expand to a different part of the country. Because your ass is getting killed by these late starts because you're on West Coast time. No one wants to watch a game 8 o'clock on the East Coast, or more, 9 o'clock on the East Coast, when your ass is winding down from watching the ACC, Big Ten, and SEC games. You want to chill.
Yeah, legit 66% of the country is probably, well, you're coming on late for 66% of the country. I'm not going to say that they're not watching, because somebody on the East Coast and in Central Time is
they're
watching.
diehards everywhere, yeah.
But they're diehards, right?
Yeah.
And also alums. But still, it's that huge section that the Pac-12 has to be concerned about because of their time zone and things that they have to worry about. So, yeah, I completely agree with you on that, bro.
So, which means that if you're Texas Tech and Oklahoma State, those are viable options to get into that footprint, because that's that R word, recruiting. Yeah. They could get some of these Texas kids and Oklahoma kids, well, that big ass talent pool is, and pull from that, because you'll be able to sell to mommy and daddy or grandpappy or grandmommy. You can get to see your kid play. You can get to see him play like a UCLA or a USC or Oregon and Washington could say, you can get to see your son play in person in the state of Texas or in Oklahoma, at least once a few times a year. So, I mean, but if you're the private schools of the TCU and Baylor's of the world, you're asked out. Yeah. You're going anywhere. But I'll say this too. I think the more likely scenario is those 3 leagues, the ACC, Pac-12, and Big Ten, having some type of alliance, because you hit on the head and you pretty much echoing this guy like Ralph Russo. The great Ralph Russo wrote a column on the Associated Press, and basically asked the question: why would the ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12 form an alliance? He broke it down to 2 areas. He broke it down to scheduling revenue and the college football playoff and post-NCAA policy making. So we already touched upon the scheduling revenue. Yeah. Like the Atlantic did an article. Someone the Atlantic wrote an article. I should say the Athletic, not the Atlantic. The Athletic wrote an article on how this alliance would solve the 4 million viewer problem. What the 4 million viewer thing is games that garner at least 4 million views. Like the SEC has an abundance of those every year. Any game with Alabama, mostly. Alabama, Auburn. Any game with Georgia, Florida, LSU even. Texas A&M as well. Like the ACC has only one of them. That's been with Clemson the past few years. I think the Big Ten had them with Ohio State and Michigan and Wisconsin, among a few. And Pac-12 has one with Oregon, mostly Oregon, and I think SC as well, USC. So Ralph Russo cooked up these made-for-TV market games, and tell me if you're starting to salivate on these possibilities.
Okay.
Southern Cal at Clemson, Ohio State versus Miami, Penn State versus Florida State, Oregon versus Michigan. So basically, some of these games are happening this coming season. Oregon is at Ohio State.
Ohio State, yes, sir. I'm looking at the schedule right now.
And Washington is at Michigan on September 11th.
Now,
so,
not necessarily sexy, but same day as Ohio State, Oregon on was that September 11th?
September 11th.
You got Cal TCU, and you also have Texas A&M at Texas A&M and Colorado for the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not Big 12. What conference were they both in? Weren't they both in the They were both in the Big 12, right?
Yeah.
So you got that old rivalry there, and then Washington, Michigan. Yeah. So I could. Yeah.
So there you go. And so if you cook up those, if they cook up some more matchups like that, or even hell, you could expound even more. You could say, damn, I'm just spitballing here. Michigan, North Carolina. Purdue, NC State, the battle of the cow schools, the engineering schools, things like that to garner interest, because you have Power 5, well, about to be Power 4, going against Power 4. Okay, you got those guys playing against each other on a year-to-year basis as your non-conference. So the others, to address the second portion of what Ralph Russo mentioned, the college football playoff. I mean, can you imagine? Like, first of all, it's ironic that it was created by the commissioners of the SEC, Big 12. the SEC about to kill the Big 12, by the way. The Mountain West and Notre Dame with the objection that each of these have an agenda. Notre Dame wants access. The Mountain West wants access on the part of the group of 5. The SEC now, come to find out, wants to accommodate more teams because they're going to have a stronger conference, right, with Oklahoma and Texas. So basically, they're going to look to capture 2 of those 6 at-larges, right? At least 2 of them.
Yeah.
Because they're going to get at least 2. Let's just be real, right?
They'll be realistic, yeah.
So, but just think about this for the other at-larges, right? Especially with the ACC, which is just Clemson in the 13th drawers at the moment, right? So, if outside of Clemson, North Carolina and Miami, they lose only 1 or 2 games, right? But have non-conference wins over a fellow group of fellow Power 4, especially the likes of a Wisconsin or they would say Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Washington, SC, even things like that would help North Carolina and Miami's cases to get an at-large. So the ACC to get more than 1 at-large, or at least 1 at-large. Same with the Big 10, same with the Pac-12, especially that would really help the Pac-12 because they don't have the exposure as those other 2 conferences, and not including the SEC. So that there, I mean, and also the policymaker, right quick, that's the ACC, Big 10, and Pac-12. That's a huge voting block against the SEC. That's a power play move as far as influence over college football going forward. So that's like used as a, hey, wait a minute, we have to be the check and balance on the SEC's ass because they're growing more influence, more stature in college football with all these brands. But we got this voting block right here, which we have brands as well, not as many as the SEC put together, but together rather. We got brands, we got voting blocks, we can mitigate the SEC takeover, if you will, of college football. So this is like risk. This is in response to the SEC's power play right here. This is a response. So that's why I think, to your point, seeing this take place is probably going to be more likely right away to happen sooner than a conference poaching other squads. even as likely as a Pac-12 poaching two of the Big Ten schools that I mentioned right there, just for recruiting reasons. So yeah, but it's a trip, man. I mean, college football is a gift that keeps on giving, man, especially in the off season.
Oh yes, and to see, like, I'm doing a search now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't even want to do 2020 because, of course, I'm starting to look at all sports that have happened in 2020.
Right.
You know, with an interesting eye, right? Yes, it happened. I refuse to be like everyone else and put an asterisk on it, because if you want to be that way about it, right, Bamas, you could legit put an asterisk on a whole lot of seasons, right? And as a matter of fact, I saw a meme where someone had an asterisk for every basketball season dating back to 2012 on why that champion shouldn't have been a champion.
Yes.
A lot of them will BS, but I'm like, okay, if we're going to have this argument, hell, we can do this for a lot of other sports for a lot.
Which is why it's a stupid thing to do, because I mean, hell, it's not those teams' fault that certain things broke their way. You gotta play the games in front of you.
Yes.
You gotta play. That's all you can do. So I wouldn't hate on anybody in any sport for winning a title, but go ahead.
Yeah, the reason why I say that is, of course, people like to bring up asterisks because certain superstars get hurt.
Yeah.
Or somebody gets somebody gets suspended, or certain team doesn't play that year, or just whatever reason you want to list for asterisks potentially, they're out there, right?
Right.
The only reason why I say that about 2020 for sports is because we saw a lot of things that weren't necessarily consistent from what we're used to seeing in terms of dominance, right? With Milwaukee Bucks winning the title, it's been 50 years since they won one. Who was that? Baylor that won the men's basketball tournament this year in NCAA.
Beat the hell out of Gonzaga, yeah.
Yeah, but Baylor's not necessarily a basketball powerhouse.
Right.
But, I mean, they won the title still. So there's just a lot of spaces. The Buccaneers, yes, they got a lot of talent on that team.
And the Super Bowl at their home stadium.
There's something that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Will they be another team? Well, I mean, yes, they're going to be a team that's going to be in the mix. That's a whole nother conversation for 2 weeks from now. But still, there are a lot of stuff in sports right now that's going on where I've been like, I don't know. Is this COVID related or not? Let's find out. If these teams are consistent, maybe it's something that I can believe in. And the same thing could be said about with the 2020 college football season. Even though we got a champion that we're used to, the whole ranking system, right? I wanted to go back to 2019, see what that top 12 looked like. And I'm like everybody else with their conspiracy theories. Okay, there could be 3 SEC teams in there. There could very easily be 2 to 3 ACC teams in there. Same thing for Big Ten. Pac-12 will, oddly enough, get a team or 2 in there. So it'll be interesting to see how everything. That's why I'm like, why is everyone panicking because of one additional school? That third school. I'm like, everybody's just calm down, see how this plays out, and then act accordingly, but at the same time plan. But it would be great for the likes of the Pac-12, like you said, if and I'm still trying to understand, why are they having 10 o'clock games? I understand it's prime time for them on the West Coast. The thing is, though, you can't be mad at East Coast fans that you're putting your best teams on during your West Coast prime time if you want East Coast fans to watch.
And have you heard that they're going to start doing noon kickoffs or 1 o'clock kickoffs Eastern Standard Time, which means it'll be in the morning time
for them. Time. You know what?
Because of that.
Yeah, I get it, but at the same time,
that's going to hurt them, though.
It is going to hurt them for playing football. Like it happened actually during this past fall where they had a couple of games on early. Well, actually, no, they had our game on early because they had to move it.
Yeah.
Where they ended up playing at like 9 o'clock Eastern. Well, not 9, but noon Eastern. But my thing is, don't necessarily fully have to concede to what the East Coast is doing. Just have more of your games played at 4 and 7 o'clock. we'll watch. It's that 10 o'clock game. Everybody's like,
Oh,
we're gonna stay
yeah, I
up to
know.
watch these Bamas play against Arizona at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
No,
Have
not
more
really.
games. Have more games at 4, no later than 7 o'clock out at their time. 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
No, 7 o'clock our time, I should say, because 7 o'clock their time is 7 o'clock our time. We don't want that.
Yeah. You know what? No, have your games like that, right? But let that be like Arizona State. Let that be Oregon. See, now I'm gonna get in trouble for down in these schools too. So yeah, I'm not gonna continue to do that. But I'll say this: your schools that don't have as much eyes or many eyes on them, move those games to 10 o'clock, 10:30. Let them be those late games that only the region would care about. Put the games that garner national attention on either at 4 p.m. or 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I guarantee you, you'll get more East Coast eyes on those games.
Well said. Well said. So it remains to be seen what's going to go down with this said alliance. It's not going to happen right away, obviously. It's going to take a little time. I mean, but I would say this. Expect, hell, maybe this season, but expect, especially for next season, on the off season, to hear more about this and steam picks up. But while I said all that, I still think there's probably going to be some poaching going on. It won't happen as soon as this alliance stuff gets mapped out between these three conferences, if that's the plan moving forward. Either way, the Big 12 is in the world of hurt as a Power 5 conference move, as a power conference moving forward. I think they're on death watch. They're on death watch for the next 4 years because
They are. But I'll say this, and I've said it before on the show. I still have faith in them. I still believe that they can turn this around, and if they get the right schools, they'll be right where they currently are, the 5th best Power 5 conference. That's number one. And yeah, I'm gonna need the rest of the world to not be afraid of this invisible bully, aka the Gooch, out here. That is the SEC until it actually happens. Then you go ahead and start acting accordingly. But as of right now, based upon what everyone's saying right now, I really don't see it.
Right, exactly. So going from college football to professional football, we know that we're in the middle of NFL preseason, yay! And the regular season is like what, 3 weeks away? I think it's 3 weeks away.
Yes.
Wow, less than a month. Come on, September. But anyway, one note that's noteworthy here: Tim Tebow has been fired. Well, I should say cut. It's the same thing, right? Yeah. But he's been cut from the Jacksonville Jaguars and his latest comeback attempt in the professional sport. Now I will say this: I'm not going to bag on Tebow. Sure, he's a pup hound. Sure, he loves the attention. Sure, he's used his name to get these types of opportunities. Because let's be real, if his name wasn't Tim Tebow, would he been able to get a baseball contract with the New York Mets organization after not playing baseball since high school? No. And if his name wasn't Tim Tebow, would he be able to get an opportunity to not only play in professional football for the first time damn near 10 years, but do so at a different position? Former quarterback to tight end. Answer is hell no. No one would get that opportunity.
You know what, though, Scott? I'll say this, right? It's not necessarily just the name of Tim Tebow. It's what he did for who he did it for. And you add in those two ingredients to that. Urban Meyer and the fact that he won a Heisman Trophy and they won a national title together. You mix that in together. Urban Meyer's first job in the NFL level. That's my boy. I also understand that, hey, he's a year away potentially of getting his pension. Let me go ahead and bring him in so we can get that. You know, if he can at least if he can prove himself and be good enough to make the roster, one up on him. But we also found out that, hey, he's not good enough. And if you're not, I'm going to have to cut you. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, because you saw the highlights, man, when they played Cleveland.
Yeah.
Dude whiffed on 2 blocks. And I know the first one was the guy who was a 5th string outside linebacker crashed out too hard, and Tim Tebow kind of lost his footing when he gave him the forearm shiver with his off arm, which you should do, right? Because he's left-handed. He did with his right arm. So he did right, but he looked like he whiffed. And he probably did whiff a little bit. But what the fact is that the guy crashed down too hard because he didn't know what the hell he was doing either, which made it look like stupid. He probably got cut himself today as well, or like before today as well. But the second one was when he just totally whiffed on the defender near the goal, near the inside the 10-yard line. And it's on YouTube somewhere. That's when you're like, man, how do you watch that as a head coach and still keep that guy around on the roster? You can't do that. Because other guys are looking at that and going, are you serious?
Yeah.
Are you fucking serious? If that was me, I would have been walking out yesterday. Turning in my playbook yesterday. So he had to do that. Or Mar had to do that. But the thing is, like, why, if you really want him the chance to succeed, even if, first of all, why would you allow him to play a position he's never played? Because it's totally different playing quarterback. Yeah, the dude is 275. Yeah, he's big as a house. Yeah, he's beefy. He's not fat. He's kind of beefy. But still, it's a different thing from playing a quarterback. He's naturally a quarterback.
Yeah.
Because he has to go catch the ball, go run pass patterns, block. That takes some want to block. That's different. It's more like playing defense in the NBA. You have to have a rebound. You have to have a rebound, want to and desire. You can't go in and half-ass, you're going to get your ass kicked. That's how blocking this is in the NFL, especially at that level.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and of course, the pass catching passes, he's never done that before. Why, if he's going to make him a different position, why not making him an H-back? Or fullback?
You know what?
Because he
You're right.
He did a lot of running in college. Or jump passes at the goal line.
Yeah.
Why not? Because he put him in a position where he can't. It's like putting a person in a position where he's going to be destined to fail. He's in a position to fail. Put him in.
You know why? You know why not H-back? He's probably not fast enough.
Yeah, especially given that he hasn't played in the NFL in damn near 10 years.
Yeah.
So
that's,
and he's
that's
a bigger guy at that.
Most definitely. But yeah, there was no way in the world we're going to see him at QB, especially if I'm Urban Meyer, because we just drafted a QB who we want to be our future. I don't necessarily want his mental to be diminished because he has to hear questions week in and week out about his play and whether or not he's going to be replaced by Tim Tebow.
Yeah. I'm glad you said it because what a fucked up way to ruin your quarterback's confidence. Your overall number one overall picks confidence and having Tebow mania on the sidelines if he struggles. Yeah. He's going to struggle. He's a rookie.
Yeah.
And plus, Tim Tebow is a native of where? Jacksonville, Florida.
Jacksonville. Yeah. And see, that was the thing that people were even talking about.
All the Florida alums.
Of course.
Yeah.
But that was the one thing people were talking about even before training camp even started was at what point will Tim Tebow start as quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars? Dude, can we even get him on the field first before you even start?
Thank you.
Yes. But see, I'll say this, right? This is what happens when you have nothing else to talk about and you have to bring up some sort of fodder to get people talking. Right. And one of sports' greatest talking points is Tim Tebow. And the quarterback position, if you combine those two things together, right?
For Urban Meyer.
Especially as it pertains to professional sports. So you get those two things together, man, people are going to want to talk. That's why we got it. But at the same time, I'm like, this dude's not going to be good enough to play quarterback in the NFL right now because he was barely good enough when he was in shape to do it. So let Trevor Lawrence prepare himself to get himself ready for his rookie season without any additional distractions, and he'll be fine. So yeah, I'm just glad, not necessarily that Tim Tebow is without an NFL job, but at the same time, let's be real, he's done well for himself, and he's done well for saving his money. And what else? He can go right back to doing what he was doing before he was brought into Jacksonville, which is television. So that won't be an issue.
And he was good at that. He was great on the ACC
he was
network.
Good at exactly. So he can saunter himself right back to that, and he'll be fine, right? Yeah. But yeah, I'm just glad that it's over so we can just stop talking about Tim Tebow during the football season. That's the main thing. Because I'm like, they're reasonable football experts that are spending way too much time analyzing Tim Tebow.
Yes, I totally agree. ESPN and Fox Sports, especially, you guys are guilty.
Yeah.
I'll say this one last thing too, to put a red bow, hopefully, on the Tim Tebow phenomenon.
Or maybe an orange one.
There you go. Here's the thing. You said it earlier. Tebow is not. I know. I heard this talk about Tim Tebow's a bust. Tim Tebow's a bust. He's not a bust. Not for what he accomplished. He got to accomplish. First of all, for him to play in the NFL and take his team to the playoffs, that's impressive enough to defy all odds and win a playoff game.
Yeah.
He's not a bust, people. He is not a bust. He played 4 or 5 years in the NFL. For him to,
I think it was 3 or 4.
3 or 4. Okay, got you. But still, that's the average amount of the length of a career.
And it is, yes.
So
right.
He did that, and he made good money. Right. He had some success. You know, he did win on that level, not the championship. But he won a division title. So, I mean, with the Denver Broncos, so, yeah, people shouldn't hate on him that much. Because, to your point, he's made some money, made some more money doing the broadcaster thing. He seems like a very, very smart and sharp dude. He seems like a very good dude. So, he seems like he's doing well for himself, and God bless him. He got to live his dream. He got to be a quarterback in college, or high school level, collegiate level, won a Heisman, won 2 national titles, goes to the NFL, gets drafted in the first round, then the following season leads the Denver team from a 1-4 start to win the division and win a playoff game against my Steelers in overtime. Damn you, Ike Taylor, and I do get that. But still, even after they got the asses kicked the next round by New England, the point is that, hey, there's no shame of losing to get your ass kicked by Tom Brady in the playoffs and Bill Belichick in the playoffs. No. He had a damn good career. It's not stellar, it's not great, but he wasn't a damn bust. So
yeah, can we be real about this real quick?
Yeah.
He was the 25th pick in that year's draft.
Right.
How many busts do you see from the number 25 spot? He was legit damn near a second-round pick. That's real. Yeah. Is he really a bust?
Exactly.
That's the 25th spot.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying it. Because it's not like he was in the top 10. It wasn't like he was a top overall pick.
No.
He's the 25th pick of the draft. He wasn't expected to play much of this rookie year anyway.
No. I mean, let's be real. Yeah, he won a Heisman Trophy. Yes, he won national championships. He was still the 25th overall pick. There were 24 other teams that didn't think much of him at the time, and the Jets were like, we need a QB. Yeah. Because was it the Jets who drafted him? Was it the Jets?
The Broncos. The Broncos
drafted him. And they already had a QB. They're like, we need a backup. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, let's go ahead and have a quarterback battle.
Yeah.
You know, all the other organizations that needed a QB passed on this man. Denver had one in place. Oddly enough, Tebow beat him out and was able to take the team to the playoffs. Dude, he was not a bust.
Yeah.
He was not a bust.
So let's stop with that. Stop with the look. I teased Tim Tebow about being a pub hound, but you know, the dude wasn't a bust. He had a damn good career in the NFL. Yeah. So let's just put that to rest. So we're going to move from the